Hey guys, today on our homework we're going to start learning power standard number 6, which is solving problems using percent. Good thing we've already been talking about percent. Now you should have your foldable that looks very similar to this one here, and we're going to start with how to find percent of a number. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up to that section. When you encounter a problem that says what is blank percent of blank number, first step we need to do is change the percent to a decimal or fraction. Now, the one that you change it to is going to depend on what you like using most. Then, once you have your decimal or fraction, you're going to multiply that decimal or fraction with the whole or the number that you were given originally in the problem. So let's look at an example here. What is 15% of 60? Well, I'm going to show an example of using both decimals and fractions to solve this problem. So if we choose to use decimals because we like decimals better, what we're going to need to do is first change that 15% to a decimal. How do we do that? Well, we chop off our percent sign, we start behind the whole number and move 2 times to the left and do our butt cheek math. Okay, so now I have 15 hundredths or 0.15. I'm going to now take that decimal and multiply it with the whole of 60 that I was given. So I have 60 and I'm going to multiply that with 0.15. Let's see, 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 6 is 30. Now I'm going to put my placeholder 0, 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 6 is 6, add up all my digits, and I see 900, but oops, I need to remember to circle my place values behind my decimal points and move that many times in my answer. So, what is 15% of 60? That would be 9. Okay, again, 15% of 60 would be 9. Why are we multiplying? That's an awesome question. Well, we're multiplying because we're finding 15% of 60. Maybe you recall when we talked about multiplying and dividing with fractions, that word of meant multiplying to us. So to find out 15% of 60, we just changed that percent to a decimal, then multiplied that to get the 15% of the 60, which would be just 9. Okay, what if you like using fractions? Well, 15% can be written as a fraction by taking that 15 and writing it over 100. Okay, so now that I have 15 over 100, I could actually go ahead and simplify, but let's just set it up first because what we're really going to be doing is 60 times 15 over 100. Well, hopefully we remember that if we have a whole number and we want to make it look like a fraction, that means we put it over 1 because 60 divided by 1 is still 60. Okay, now I can go ahead and multiply, but I see I'm going to get very big numbers. I'm going to cross simplify first, which a bunch of us did learn. In other words, I'm going to take this 60 and divide it by 10, which would give me just 6. And I'm also going to take this 100 and divide it by 10, and that would leave me with just 10. Okay, but I can also divide 6 and 10 by 2. That would give me just 3 here. 10 divided by 2 would give me just 5. Now I have easier, smaller numbers to work with. 3 times 15. Let's see, 15 times 3. 3 times 5 would be 15, carry my 1, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. So I would get 45 for my new numerator, and 1 times 5 would be 5 for my new denominator. Well, what's 45 divided by 5? 9. Perfect. So we got the same exact answer, which we should, no matter whether you use decimals or fractions. Okay, hopefully you were able to jot down those examples. You need to do these practice problems on your own. Go ahead and pause the video so that you can write these down and then complete those later. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next section. The next section of your foldable says how to find percent. So that's what we're going to do next. So how to find percent. Blank is what percent of blank. So to find out what percentage a part is of a whole, you must first create a fraction by writing the part over the whole. Remember that fractions are part to whole ratios. So that's why we always take our part in the situation and write it over our whole. Then we divide using Cowboy and the horse, okay, to get a decimal answer. Remember that your cowboy goes inside the house, your horse stays outside. Okay, once we have that decimal, all we have to do is change it to a percent. So let's look at our example here. We have 90 is what percent of 360? And you should be writing these down also in your foldable since they're not written down there. So 90 is what percent of 360? Well, this sounds like my whole, the total amount in the problem, and 90 is a part. 90 is only part of that whole 360. So I'm going to write 90 over 360, my part, over my whole. Okay, and then I want to go ahead and divide using Cowboy and the horse. I notice first though that I can simplify this. I could divide these both by 10, and I would get 9 over 36, but I know I can simplify that even more, and that will make my problem a lot easier. If I go ahead and divide, actually, both of these by 9, I would get 1/4. Now 1/4 we need to change to a decimal using Cowboy and the horse. Okay, so I have my cowboy and my horse, put 1 inside the house, 4 outside. 4 does not fit into 1, so I'm going to add my decimal and my zeros. Okay, 4 fits into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, 10 minus 8 would give me 2 left over, bring down my 0. 4 fits into 20 5 times, and 5 times 4 is 20. I have nothing left over. I didn't even need that extra donut. So 1/4 is the same thing as 0.25 or 25 hundredths. My last step is to change the decimal to a percent by doing my butt cheek math and moving 2 times to the right. That means that 90 is 25% of 360. It is 1/4 the amount of 360. Okay, so that is how we find a percent when we're given a part and a whole. Here are the 2 practice problems that you need to do in order to make sure you understand this. Okay, make sure you pause the video and jot these down for your practice problems. Okay, now we're going to do the last part of your handout or your notes, which is how to find the whole. So what if you're given a part and a percentage and you need the total or the whole? So some number is a certain percentage of what larger number. So in order to find the whole, first we need to change the percent to a decimal or fraction. Then once we've done that, we divide the part by the decimal or fraction. So let's see how this works. 14 is 10% of what number? 14 is only a portion of what number? So that means we're looking for the whole. That means 14 is our part, and then of course we have our percentage. So our first step was to change the percent to a decimal or fraction. I'm going to show you both ways again. Let's first change that 10% to a decimal. We chop off our percent sign. We start behind our whole number and move 2 times to the left for our butt cheek math. Okay, and we get 0.10 or 1/10. Now we need to divide the part by the decimal or fraction. If we're dividing up the part, that means the part goes inside the house, the decimal goes outside. That's an important thing to remember. Whatever is being divided up goes inside the house. Okay? Now, before I can divide, we have to remember to kick the ball to the wall. If I move this decimal 2 times, I have to move the decimal on this whole number of 14 2 times and insert some placeholder zeros. Remember to throw your decimal up top. Does 10 fit into 1? No. Does 10 fit into 14? Yes, 1 time. 1 times 10 is 10. I would have 4 left over. Bring down a 0. 10 fits into 40 4 times, and 4 times 10 is 40. 0 left over, but since I still have a 0 inside the house, I have to bring it down and fill in an answer above it. Does 10 fit into 0? No, so I'm going to put a 0 here. and that would still leave me with 0. Now I'm done dividing. So that means that 14 is 10% of 140, which would be our whole. So 14 is just a small percentage of this total number here. Now, how would we do this with a fraction? Even though most of us don't like that, we still need to know how to do it. Okay, so if I have 10% and I want to write that as a fraction, all we have to do is take off our percent sign and put that number over 100. Well, let's divide these both by 10 to simplify this, okay? And I would get 1/10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So really, I need to take now and divide my part by my decimal or fraction. Remember that whatever's being divided goes first in a number sentence. Well, the part, 14, is being divided by this 1/10. This is very, very important because we're going to have to do KFC. Remember, if you don't have your number sentence written correctly, you're going to end up changing the wrong fraction upside down. So, first of all, this is a whole number. We remember that we put this over 1. Since it's a whole number, we want it to look like a fraction. Now I can do my keep, flip this division sign to multiplication, change my second fraction upside down. Well, 14 times 10, well, that must be 140. 1 times 1 is 1, and 140 divided by 1 is just 140. So again, we should get the same answer no matter which way we do it, and we did. So that's perfect. Again, 14 is 10% of 140. The practice problems that you need to do for this section are right here. Make sure that you jot those down and pause the video if you need to. Come to the Homework Center tomorrow morning if you need some help or if you need to watch the videos again. Have a great evening.